In tonight's Business Insider, the mortgage crisis, VIP loans, and U.S. lawmakers. Last week, the House Oversight Committee released an explosive report. It details how Countrywide Financial Corporation gave members of Congress, their staffers, and top government officials special treatment like lower interest rates and reduced fees. For analysis, we turn to our guest tonight on Capital Insider. Ken Donohue spent 21 years as a U.S. Secret Service agent and 8 years as Inspector General for Housing and Urban Development. Now he's with the Reznick Group, a consulting firm in Bethesda. So before we start, California Representative Darrell Issa spent 3 years trying to get these documents. He released last week's report. What happens next?
Well, first of all, I thought it was an excellent report. I read that in detail. It was very revealing at times, and it was kind of got my blood pressure going when I saw in that report.
I bet it did. Any surprises there? I mean, the report identified 6 current or former lawmakers, so-called friends of Angelo, that's Countrywide CEO Angelo Mozillo. A Senate ethics panel went over this in 2009. They cleared some of them. Why was that?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. I think it has to be left, and being in law enforcement my life, I think the issue of facts and information has to be firm. And I think speculation, whatever else, they'll have to make a determination what they're going to go back and do with this report.
This report raises ethical concerns. Countrywide played a huge role in the mortgage crisis. I remember interviewing some people back in 2008 when it was beginning. These were people that came into D.C. They had mortgages. They were crying during the press conference, and it all went back to Countrywide. What have we learned from all these ethical lapses, and what's going to be done?
Well, I think one of the things I found striking in the report was the fact that I think one of the congressmen referred to this as a nothing more than a frequent flyer program. I suggest the fact that some of the benefits that came and derived from Friends of Mozillo was pretty significant benefits that came to those as well.
Texas Representative Pete Sessions turned down one of these so-called VIP loans, but other people, and you've got Angelo right there testifying. A lot of people turned them down, but others accepted, and they were the same people calling the shots and making laws, weren't they?
They sure were. I just can't but help but think that what you want to find people that some will turn it down, others will accept it. There has to be something amiss with regard to it, and certainly a disaster like the mortgage industry and the impact it's had on our economy.
Now, it's so interesting because over all of this, we've seen the banks on Wall Street, Countrywide, all of these things. They stepped back, said we didn't, and they can afford the good lawyers. We did nothing illegal. It wasn't right, as Obama and others have said it wasn't right, but it wasn't illegal. So what does Congress need to do to write it down and make it illegal for these things to happen?
I think you can't enforce good or bad behavior. I think you have to have transparency. I think you have to have good oversight, and I think that's what that plays into from the top down. I think I can't help but think that if some of the regulations or some of the policies were strictly enforced, where Congress or staffers...
Oh, but we don't want regulations. No, we've got too much regulation. That's bringing down the economy. Wall Street doesn't want it. The economy doesn't do well when it's regulated. That's the argument you're going to hear.
Well, it's interesting to see that the Dodd-Frank bill, Chris Dow was one of the candidates with regard to this program as well. I find it interesting, both of them, that were very much proponents of giving subprime mortgages, very active, seem to be mentioned in this bill. So I don't think just regulation is the key. I think good common sense has to be done, and I think the outcome of much of this has to be decided by the taxpayers when they vote this November.
All of these sweetheart deals, and Countrywide being one example, but everything that was going on that helped cause this financial crisis and what was going on Capitol Hill, it's like turning the light on and seeing the cockroaches run, isn't it? Now that we've got transparency, do you think, though, that Congress is going to act and really write these things into law?
Well, the question comes down to if we went back and these regulations were applied, could we have stopped the demise of the mortgage industry sooner than later, opposed to paying what they estimate 2014 to be over $300 billion of tax dollars?
What's your website?
My website is ReznickGroup.com, Bethesda, Maryland.
All right, thank you so much. Ken Donohue, former HUD Inspector General, with us on Capital Insider. Good to have your views.